KUVO Jazz 89.3 in the studio. Dr. Daniel Spiegel, SVP of Growth and Development at Soar Autism. Soar was founded by a husband and wife team in Denver, Colorado in 2021. Now, coming from backgrounds in public education and medicine, they saw and heard from many providers and families the need for better, developmentally appropriate autism care for young kids. Now, the early years of a child's development are magical. They specialize in serving children ages 6 and under, a time when the brain is uniquely wired to learn through play and social interaction. Now, their mission is to transform autism care because every child deserves to soar. Quote, "We care deeply about quality care for young kids with autism. It's not just a job for us, it's our life's work, and we strive to make an impact every day," unquote. Good morning, Daniel. Thank you for joining us on KUVO's Community Connection.
Good morning, Treat. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure. You know, I love your mission to transform autism care because every child deserves to soar. That's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, when we founded Soar, as you mentioned, it was really difficult to find high-quality care. And it actually still is really difficult to find high-quality care. But we invest every day in our clinical teams and in training. We want to make sure that no matter who your therapist is, what center you come to, you're getting the same high-quality care every day. And if we can do that really well at a young age, we can make a tremendous difference in the lives of these children.
Awesome. Now, how young can you detect autism?
That's a really good question. So some of the testing will actually go down to about 12 months, but I will say it can be challenging to get a definitive diagnosis before age about 18 months. Our head of psychology can actually go down to about 15 months for high-risk children. So what do I mean by high risk? These are children who are between the ages of 12 and 15 months already starting to show signs of delay. Maybe they have siblings on the spectrum. Maybe they started talking or started babbling, but now are sort of regressing. Starting to see those kinds of signs like lack of eye contact or not having big smiles, no kind of turn taking, no trying to imitate a parent. Those are some really early signs that suggest there's something different going on with the brain's development. So typically down to about 18 months, but occasionally we can go even younger, down to about 15 months for those high-risk kids.
Wow. Well, you basically answered my next question. Now, tell us about the type of testing you do to discover a child is autistic.
Yeah. So there's no blood test or anything like that. There's no genetic test today for autism. The causes of autism are multifactorial. So there's probably a genetic cause. There's probably some environmental cause. There's even some good research on the environment in the womb, in utero, and exposure to different things during that time. The testing that we do is inclusive of parent interviews, child observations, and then specific neurodevelopmental testing that occurs in the office with the child. Now, the goal with diagnosing autism is to diagnose it as early as possible.
Yes.
The reason for that is because when a child is 1, 2, 3, and 4, that brain can change so much. One of the, most amazing things about the brain, different from other parts of the body, is that it is not a static thing. You come out and it is designed to learn and change. And so your environment, your experience changes the actual physical structure of your brain. So we want to diagnose kids as young as possible so that we can intervene and change the way that their brains actually develop at that very, very early age.
Amazing. Wow. That's a lot of information. Now, tell me, how is testing for autism different now than it was when case number 1, Donald Triplett, was diagnosed in 1943 when he was 10 years old?
Great question. So first of all, there are a lot more resources. There's a lot more awareness, and we're in Autism Acceptance Month. It used to be Awareness Month, but now most people, I would say, know something about autism or know somebody who has autism. Years and years ago, nobody could diagnose. There weren't psychologists who even knew about autism. It wasn't part of their training. Now it's part of professional training, and there are gold standard tools that we can use to evaluate very young children as to whether they have autism or not. We're also starting to see new tools come to the market. So there are some really cool studies going on with eye tracking. So just
Nice.
as an example, a child, an infant, will pay attention to an adult's face, so it's something that looks like a human face, for longer than they'll pay attention to another shape. There are now some tools that are coming to market where they look at eye tracking. So where's that child looking at when they're watching a video? Children on the spectrum tend to look at what's in somebody's hand or an object. Children who are not on the spectrum are paying attention to your face or my face. What am I interested in? What am I thinking about?
Right.
What are the emotions on my face? There's some really cool tools that are coming to market now, but it's changed dramatically since years and years ago.
Amazing. I mean, there's just so much information out there. You just got to know where to look. Now, you did answer about the early signs, which was great. Now, once a child has been diagnosed, what is the first course of action?
Yeah. The first course of action is just to understand that diagnosis.
Right.
Really, it can be a very emotional time for families. Autism isn't something that we cure. It is a developmental difference. It's the way that child's brain develops. And so the first step is really just to understand what that means and then come to kind of terms with that and then explore what are the ways I can support this child. Some children can be best supported in more intensive therapies, center-based therapies. Some children will do better at home or with lighter touch kind of school-based therapies. So first, just talking to your psychologist, whoever is doing that diagnostic, really coming to terms and understanding it, talking with your family, understanding again what this means for your child, and then determining what the right course of action for your family, for your life situation is for your child to best support them in their development.
Right. And the first part of that is acceptance. And
Yes.
how do you accept that and be okay with that and move forward? That is one of the toughest things ever.
It's so hard. I think a lot of families have questions like, what does this mean for my child? Will they go to school? Will they go to college?
Exactly.
Will they get a job? The incredible thing, though, is that if you are getting a diagnosis really, really early, you can have, the brain is an incredible organ.
Yes, it is.
You can have such a dramatic impact. The best stories I hear are children who get diagnosed at 2. They come to us at 2.5. They graduate by 3.5 or 4 and go on to preschool.
Nice.
And some of those children, you would never know that they were diagnosed with autism. Now, every child has a different trajectory.
True that.
But it's important to really, understand the best way to support them.
Very good. Wow. Now, Soar Autism has some of the greatest numbers of ESDM certified BCBAs of any provider in the U.S. That says an awful lot about what Soar Autism has to offer.
Yeah, we now may be number 1 in the world. I'm not totally sure. I have to double check on that
Okay.
number. But the Early Start Denver model, ESDM, that's the acronym. This is actually the best well-studied intervention for children 5 and under. So there are more than 110 clinical studies out there about the efficacy of the Early Start Denver model. And that's why we use it at SOAR, because it's got such a good evidence base.
Wow. Wow. My mind is just blown right now. I just can't believe all this wonderful information. Now, how do our listeners find out about SOAR, your website or social pages?
Yeah, so you can reach us at soarautismcenter.com. There's a ton of great resources on there for families. Go to the Learning Center. There are a bunch of videos, talks about signs and symptoms of autism, how to get a diagnosis, how to get therapy. And then you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Excellent. Now, Daniel, I appreciate you for taking time away from your busy schedule to share your inspirational knowledge on autism with us today here on KUVO Community Connection. We are a Colorado where everyone feels seen and heard.
Well, thank you so much, Tree. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.